That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. So, Jim, the federal Liberal leadership race is kind of like, I don't want it, you take it. No, I don't want it, you take it. No, I don't. There's more names dropping out every day, clearly, than there have been coming in. What's this about, do you think?
You were saying before, you need a program that's all apart. Actually, you'd be able to list the candidates, I think, on a matchbook cover by the time this is over. I suspect that François-Philippe Champagne will announce he's in, because it seems a pretty posh venue tomorrow, talking to the business class in Toronto in a fireside chat, to say you're not going to be running. Although that said, if we look at the numbers that have been compiled so far, his numbers as a leadership candidate are not that sexy. We'll see. And as you mentioned, the $350,000, it's not just a matter of raising it. It's a matter of being able to get other people to give it to you. I'm not sure how easy or not that will be for Monsieur Champagne, but excuse me, I'm getting the impression, Aaron, and you kind of touched on this in your last interview. This may be a showdown, and I say showdown with air quotes, between Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see, who's going to walk away once the smoke clears. And on the other hand, maybe one of them will drop out. Maybe Ms. Freeland will drop out for the same reason that we're seeing all these other people drop out, because whether she likes it or not, even though she was the catalyst that led to the apparent resignation of Justin Trudeau, she is so much a part of that, the Trudeau experience DNA. I guess she figures it's not going to help. I can't disentangle myself from this. Wherein, she could still save face. I mean, she said she's going to run again in the next election, which is fine. So if the way is clear for Mark Carney, I would see that. But I got to tell you, Aaron, and it's nothing. I'm not criticizing here. Your correspondent in the last section there, we were talking. He mentioned smaller candidates like Frank Baylis and Chandra Arya. Frank, as far as I know, Frank Baylis is the only billionaire who's running for the leadership of the Liberal Party. He may surprise us, and I don't know this guy from a hole in the ground. I told you this, but he may, with no connection whatsoever to the Trudeau Liberals, with no connection whatsoever to this iteration, this Trudeau-staffed iteration of the Liberal Party, do way better than a lot of us are thinking. Sure. And yes, he can speak French. He even pointed this out to you in the interview. He was educated in French. So you know what? The Journal columnist can hop up and down that he tweets in English or whatever. I think you may see a repetition of Le Bon Jack phenomenon. We saw Jack Layton in Quebec. He may turn around, and when he starts parlez-vous, 20 to the dozen, and he starts addressing issues that I think are important to Quebecers, you may see perhaps a change in the odds on this increasingly shrinking field of contenders for the leadership.
It's kind of, with respect to Frank Baylis, he's kind of that proverbial breath of fresh air, right? Because he doesn't have any of that stuff attached to him. So that's one thing. And Jim, my superficial analysis of this whole Chrystia Freeland, Mark Carney thing is, yes, obviously the opposition is going to paint Chrystia Freeland as being so close to Justin Trudeau for 10 years, as he's, of course, admitted to. And then beyond that, though, this is a finance minister who, even though she didn't present the update to the budget, is walking around with a $62 billion deficit. That's not much of an argument to want to run the country necessarily, and I'm sure the opposition would play on that. So if you imagine, and again, I know absolutely nothing, as is evidenced by this comment, that it would be best perhaps for the brand, right, for the party itself, if she said, look, I can only do so much, but this guy, who I know very well because she does, that he be the leader of the party. I know that's crazy to think, but at the end of the day, I wonder, is it crazy to think?
I think the Trudeau has left the party in such devastated shape that, believe it or not knowing the incumbent is an advantage.
Yeah.
Not having anything directly to do with the incumbent is an advantage. And even though Mark Carney was being touted as Ms. Freeland's, emergency successor without her knowledge, I think it'll be very difficult, apart from his usual romper room taunts, for Pierre Poilievre to go after Mark Carney as hard as he has some other, candidates or some other political opponents. And I also think that given what we're up against, with the fruitcake in the White House. You know what? And I've mentioned before, it's hard for people, I think, to get worked up about a banker. But frankly, I think you need someone who knows what they're doing to deal with someone like Trump, who absolutely has no idea what he's doing. And in fact, that was the one, and that was a great interview you had in the last half hour with that expert on trade.
Yeah.
Because if you take away everything, what he's saying very politely is Donald. It's not as he's lying. He doesn't have a clue about how any of this works. He's just pulling stuff out of the air, mouthing off, and you're getting the likes of Danielle Smith, Premier of Alberta, going down to kiss the ring. No, this guy is going to change as soon from one day to the next. And as I say, as we get closer to the inauguration, as we get closer, and as your guest pointed out, as the consequences of Trump's idiocy become clear to the Americans who have skin in this game, you will see a change in course. I'm absolutely certain of it. But in the meantime, who do you want to have, and maybe this might end up being the real litmus test, Aaron. Who do you trust best to, pick up the whip and the chair and deal with Donald Trump for 4 years?
Meanwhile, on the provincial front, suddenly today, of course, being this is the first day of the official campaign beginning to head the provincial Liberals, Charles Milliard calls a press conference. We have Pablo Rodriguez later in the show in today. The one guy I haven't heard anything from in the last little while, which is highly unusual, of course, is Denis Coderre.
Well, we've got to see what's happening with the tax issues, right? I mean, I don't want to force the issue. I'm presuming we will be hearing from him at some point this week as to whether he has resolved those issues or not. The Liberal Party made it clear.
Yep.
And any outstanding issues he has with the tax levels of tax, whether it's federal or provincial, have got to be straightened out before he can run. So we'll see how that's going to play. Right now, though, and I would imagine that's the question you are going to be asking Mr. Rodriguez when he's on, is how can he, and we're just talking about how how can I put it, the long arm of the tainted Trudeau is affecting all these candidacies. Pablo Rodriguez will not be immune from this. Already there were opponents within the Liberal Party complaining this guy is a Trudeau cabinet minister. He hasn't done a whole heck of a lot for Quebec. I think it's going to be a huge handicap for his candidacy. And I'd be fascinated in learning what he intends to do about it, because it's one thing to say, well, I left. That's really swell. But the fact is, you were part of this crew for decades, and I think it's going to be very, very difficult for Mr. Rodriguez to disentangle himself simply from that legacy. Even though he can turn around and say, well, I wasn't really involved, and I was just a Quebec lieutenant, whatever, the fact is it is clearly guilt by association, as we see with these other cabinet ministers who aren't even trying to seek the leadership. So yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting angle on what is supposed to be a provincial campaign. But honest to God, Aaron, I got to tell you too, they're up against what is a far more exciting race right now with the federal Liberals. I don't know. Did your heart go pity pat when you realized today was the kickoff for it? I mean, I got nothing against these candidates, but it wasn't like, ooh, something big is going on here. Nobody gave it a big. I think Ratcan gave it a big splash for about 20 minutes, but apart from that, it was like, yeah, okay, Liberals, that thing, they're finally underway after talking about it for more than a year. It's finally happened. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's going to turn into a very exciting, informative, and in the end, beneficial race for Quebecers. But right now, I got to tell you, it's a little bit difficult for you to stifle a yawn even as I'm talking to you about this.
Well, I mean, to be fair, with the news cycle the way it is right now, if this wasn't going on federally, maybe this would be a bigger deal. But you're right. It's kind of hard to get excited about this right now. But maybe starting now, at least, some of the candidates are actually doing something. Maybe it begins to change.
Well, you never can tell. I mean, the other thing, I think the other sort of like X quantity here is, the Liberals are really great at taking people for granted, provincial Liberals and indeed federal Liberals. But when we're talking about Quebec Liberals, I'm really wondering whether at this moment, the Anglophone or the former Anglophone supporters of the Quebec Liberal Party who have been simmering for God knows now, all these years, 6 years under the absolutely ridiculously governance of François Legault, that whether they are expecting the Liberals to actually do something this time around, or in fact to throw them under the same bus in order to reach out to the regions and to reach out to, let's face it, as we say, the election-winning Francophone votes in Quebec. It's going to be very interesting as well to see how that plays out, because to a certain extent, up until recently, that used to be the Liberals' brand.
Yeah. Fair enough. Jim, I want to ask you the question that I started with today, which thankfully has nothing to do with politics. It concerns the congestion tax that the city of New York has just instituted. It went into effect January 5th. The idea to try to do something about some of the worst traffic, I think, in the world. And they're imposing a $9 congestion tax if you want to head into Midtown Manhattan during peak hours. And my question today, should Montreal consider doing the same for part of our downtown core? What do you think?
Oh, if it really wants to pull the plug completely on the life support system on downtown Montreal, absolutely. Listen, London pioneered this, right, with the congestion tax. It was like, I think it was like $20 to get into the center of the city. New York City doing the same thing. Guess what? We're not having traffic problems in Montreal because of an increasing load of traffic. We're having traffic problems in Montreal because nobody at City Hall knows their butt from third base when it comes to planning road work. Nobody at City Hall has a clue about dealing with motorized traffic in the city other than creating bike paths to make that traffic even worse. So yeah, if you really want to kill downtown, if you really want to turn downtown Montreal into the full-blown ghost town that it is becoming, yeah, throw a congestion tax in there.
All right, so I'll put you down as a no. All right, yeah. James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Adamant.